The story begins with a bus hijacking by masked criminals. One of the criminals threatens Iridatsu Yuta with a gun, ordering him to put his hands on his head, which Yuta follows. A news channel broadcasts the hijacking live as the armed group drives the bus towards Tokyo. Several police cars arrive to chase the hijacked bus. Suddenly, a motorcycle crashes into a police car's side mirror, speeding ahead of the police convoy. A passenger pleads with the criminals to let him off the bus, offering them a lot of money, but the criminals shoot him instead, and the money flies out of the bus. Hearing the gunshot from inside the bus, the motorcyclist accelerates to catch up. Hikiyatani Ito watches the live broadcast of the bus hijacking. Seeing the person next to him fiddling with their gadget, Yuta asks what Chichibu Rabura is doing. Rabura tells Yuta to stay quiet. The motorbike is being ridden by Narujuno Mikatan, who manages to overtake the bus and block it from the front. When the bus is directly in front of her, Mikatan jumps and smashes the windshield, entering the bus and delivering a powerful kick to one of the criminals, sending him flying out and landing on her motorcycle. Mikatan chants a spell to transform into Strange Juice, squeeze the evil soul, devour your heart, the hero of justice. Strange Juice is here. She transforms into a superhero, leaving Yuta in awe. Mikatan begins her heroic moves, holding a lemon straw-shaped baton in her hand while Ito monitors the live news feed. One of the criminals orders his gang to take down Strange Juice. They start shooting at her, but none of the bullets hit. She deflects them all. Swiftly, she leaps into action, knocking out one criminal with her baton and then going after the others. Rabura yells that there's still one criminal behind Strange Juice. It's the bus driver himself. Strange Juice blocks the driver's knife attack. As the bus begins losing control, Yuta jumps from his seat but gets thrown back when the bus crashes into a guardrail. Strange Juice also falls, and she calls out for Rabura to take over driving the bus. Rabura is shocked that Strange Juice knows her name, but rushes to the driver's seat and slams the brakes, only to find out they don't work and the bus won't stop. Suddenly, a voice comes through from Daihatsu Mika, who calls herself Pumpkin Chain. Strange Juice is frustrated, asking why Pumpkin Chain didn't help earlier. Mika explains there were some network issues, but they've been fixed now. She plans to stop the bus by activating the tire killer at the toll gate. Strange Juice asks how long it will take. Pumpkin Chain says 3 seconds. Strange Juice signals to all the passengers to hold on tight. The bus crashes into a barrier but comes to a stop. The news reports that the bus has been halted and all the passengers are safe. Strange Juice successfully restrains the bus driver and returns to her original form. The front door of the bus is unusable, blocked by the barrier, so Mikatan leaves the passengers to exit through the back. As she turns around, someone suddenly holds a gun to the back of her head. As Mikatan suspected, the mastermind behind everything reveals himself, Teruoka Ryudo. Ryudo had chosen to stay seated, and Rabura approaches him, asking what he's doing. In a swift move, Ryudo elbows Rabura in the stomach, knocking her out cold. Ryudo then orders Mikatan to kneel and put her hands behind her head. Mikatan asks what Ryudo plans to do. He replies that nuisances must be eliminated, and Mikatan is first on his list. Ryudo notices a mark on the back of Mikatan's neck and pauses. Mikatan questions why he isn't shooting her. Yuta regains consciousness and sees Mikatan being held hostage, but his eyes accidentally fall on the edge of Rabura's underwear line. Just as Ryudo is about to pull the trigger, Yuta suddenly uses his power, charging at Ryudo and knocking him out of the bus. Both Yuta and Ryudo fall into the river below. Mikatan jumps in to save Yuta as he sinks to the bottom. Yuta wakes up on the riverbank and asks if Mikatan saved him. A strong wind blows, lifting Mikatan's skirt slightly, revealing her underwear. Yuta accidentally sees it, causing his face to turn bright red and his nose to bleed. He faints again. Mikatan panics and tries to wake him up, but doesn't work. At that moment, a strange force enters Yuta's body, expelling Yuta's spirit from it. When Yuta opened his eyes, suddenly a cat was in front of him and told him that Yuta's soul had detached from his body. Yuta was shocked and immediately looked around, realizing he was in his apartment. He quickly asked why the cat could talk and knew so much about him. The cat asked him to stay calm. Yuta was even more surprised when he noticed his legs were gone. He had turned into a spirit. The cat introduced himself as Chiranasuke, who was also a spirit like Yuta. Chiranasuke reassured Yuta that he wasn't dead yet. Chiranasuke invited Yuta to watch something on the laptop, but when he turned it on, a video of cats mating appeared instead. Chiranasuke then showed Yuta a video of room 103, Yuta's own room. Chiranosuke and Yuta were currently in room 203, right above Yuta's room. Yuta watched as someone entered his room. Chiranosuke changed the camera angle, and it turned out the person in Yuta's room was his own body. Yuta's spirit couldn't believe it was really him. Chiranosuke explained that this video was a live stream on Ekaniko, meaning what they were seeing was happening right now. Chiranosuke jumped loudly, and Yuta's body in the video heard the noise. Yuta didn't understand how all of this could be happening. He floated through the walls and down the hallway, but he couldn't quite control his spirit form yet. He accidentally fell through the floor and ended up in front of room 103. When Yuta tried to enter room 103, his spirit was repelled. He didn't understand why he couldn't pass through, and Chiranosuke explained that there was a barrier. Charms were placed around the room to ward off evil spirits. Yuta was frustrated, wondering who had put those charms up. Of course, it had to be the entity that had taken over his body. Chiranosuke further explained that Yuta hadn't just left his body. Another spirit had taken over his body, which meant his soul was expelled. Yuta was startled when he saw Chiranosuke drinking sake, but Chiranosuke brushed it off without explaining much. The main point was that Chiranosuke told Yuta to find the Mandala Gandala. Naturally, Yuta had no idea what the Mandala Gandala was. Chiranosuke explained that it was an ancient sacred book from India. It supposedly contained a secret ritual to reclaim a body that had been possessed. Yuta asked where the book was. Chiranosuke said it was in someone's room within the Korai house, but he didn't know exactly whose room. He encouraged Yuta to find it. Yuta wasn't totally convinced about the Mandala Gandala, but he had no choice but to search for it. He thought the most suspicious room was room 102, which belonged to Ito. Yuta phased through the door into Ito's room. It was 9 a.m., and it seemed Ito wasn't in her room, though the room itself was still a mess. Yuta began searching every corner of the room, flipping through piles of books. Her computer was still on, showing a news report about a bus hijacking earlier that day. Just then, Ito emerged from the bathroom, stretching her body, which caused her shirt to rise, revealing her underwear. Yuta accidentally saw it and screamed, apologizing while quickly turning away. But in his panic, Yuta's spirit passed through the wall into the next room, where the occupant was wearing a short skirt and jumping around, unintentionally showing her underwear to Yuta as well. This caused Yuta to have a nosebleed and unleash a massive burst of energy that could destroy the atmosphere, resulting in a disaster that ultimately destroyed the Earth. Yuta's spirit now finds itself floating in space, and he is even more confused about what is happening. Chiranosuke appears and tells Yuta they forgot to mention something important. If Yuta gets too aroused and loses consciousness, it causes an asteroid to fall toward Earth, wiping out humanity. Yuta, completely bewildered, asks what Chiranosuke is talking about. Chiranosuke explains that this is all Yuta's fault. Whenever Yuta sees a girl's underwear, his excitement levels skyrocket, giving him superhuman powers. However, if he reaches his peak and then gets even more aroused, his internal barrier shatters, making him faint. Yuta still doesn't quite get how this relates to the asteroid falling. Chiranosuke tells him not to think too much about it. The bottom line is, if Yuta doesn't want humanity to go extinct, he has to avoid getting aroused. Chiranosuke then asks Yuta to fix this mess. He needs to go back in time and start again. Chiranosuke explains that spirits aren't bound by time and that physical laws are temporary, especially since Yuta doesn't have a body right now. Even with all this, Yuta is still struggling to understand what Chiranosuke is saying. Chiranosuke encourages him to go back into the flow of time and create the greatest happiness, leading to a peaceful future. Yuta suddenly finds himself back in Ito's room at 9 a.m., the same time he first entered her room. He hears the sound of Ito coming out of the bathroom, and Yuta remembers the previous incident that aroused him. Not wanting to repeat the same mistake, he quickly phases through the wall into the next room, 101, where he sees Mikaton looking for a book on her shelf. Since the shelf is tall, she's jumping to reach the higher spots, and of course, this causes her skirt to lift, revealing her underwear. Yuta quickly looks away, trying to prevent himself from seeing Mikaton. Then Yuta remembers the book he's searching for. Could Mikaton be looking for the Mandala Gandala? Yuta starts searching under the bed, but to his surprise, his face bumps into Mikaton's, as she's also searching for the book under the bed. This moment makes Yuta recall their first meeting 9 months ago. Back then, they collided, causing all of Yuta's belongings to scatter. Mikaton had kindly helped him pick up his things. Yuta had been mesmerized by her, which led Mikaton to ask if they had met before. However, Mika, who lives in room 201, pointed out that Mikaton is a member of the idol group She's May, so of course, Yuta would be captivated by her. That day, they formally introduced themselves. Mika then asked Mika-tan what she had been clutching so tightly, and it turned out to be Yuta's shorts, which she immediately threw aside, apologizing profusely. Suddenly, someone knocks on Mika-tan's door. It's Shichibu Rabura, the resident of room 202, coming to borrow some salt from Mika-tan. Mika-tan asks if it's for dinner, but Rabura says it could also be for ghost hunting, referring to a task she has tomorrow to exorcise a ghost. Mika-tan asks what kind of salt Rabura uses for exorcisms. Rabura explains that any type of salt will work as long as you have the right intention. Yuta mutters something to himself about Rabura, and since Rabura is a psychic, she hears it and asks Mika-tan if she said anything. Rabura then hands Mika-tan a book Mika had borrowed. It turns out this is the very book Mika-tan had been looking for. Yuta approaches, wondering if this is the book he needs. Suddenly, Mika-tan starts reciting lines from the book, but it turns out it's not the one Mika-tan was after. Rabura suspects that maybe the books got mixed up. Yuta went to Mika's room. Mika was knitting while singing. Yuta noticed a book under the table. He tried to touch it, but his hand kept passing through it. Tiramisu appeared and explained that Yuta's spirit power was still weak. Spirit power is a strength possessed by spirits. The higher the level, the more they can move heavy objects and create phenomena like making things float. Yuta's current level was low, meaning he could only knock over a pencil at best. Yuta felt like it was some kind of game and decided to try moving a ball of yarn. The yarn rolled off and fell to the ground, showing that Yuta's spirit power was still at the beginner level. Mika picked up the yarn and saw the book under the table. She must have forgotten to put it away while cleaning earlier. The book turned out to be a family photo album. Suddenly, the news began reporting on the crimes of the Kyume group suspected of being linked to a bus hijacking. Hearing a song playing made Mika rush out of the room, confused by the signal coming from the song Mika-tan was playing. Mika entered Mika-tan's room, telling her that Kim and Ishii had escaped. Rabura ran out of the room as well, but Mika-tan called her back, reminding her that she forgot the salt. Rabura returned to grab it. Mika-tan finally found the book she had been looking for, which was lying near the door. It turned out to be a lyric book. Mika explained that the song playing was a signal for an emergency, and she called for Strange Juice. Mika-tan prepared herself, transforming into Strange Juice. As Mika-tan changed into her Strange Juice costume, Yuta accidentally saw her mid-transformation and quickly covered his eyes. With Strange Juice ready for action, Mika, now in her role as Pumpkin Chain, led the way. They passed through a secret door under the table that led to a long tunnel. Yuta, still confused about what was happening, followed them through the tunnel. The group arrived in a room filled with parked motorcycles. Strange Juice asked Pumpkin Chain what she was holding. It was a charm Pumpkin Chain had made for Strange Juice, though it wasn't finished yet. Despite this, Strange Juice took it with her. Unbeknownst to them, a thread from Pumpkin Chain's clothing got caught on the charm. As Strange Juice sped off on her bike, the thread pulled tight, leaving Pumpkin Chain exposed in just her underwear. Yuta, still in disbelief at Mika-tan with Strange Juice, accidentally glanced at Mika's body, realizing she was now only in her underwear. As a result, the atmosphere exploded again and humanity was once more wiped out.